Bienvenidos! Today we're going to talk about nosotros and nosotras commands in Spanish. Nosotros and nosotras commands are kind of weird because we're commanding ourselves to do something. And so in Spanish, when we do this, it's really, in English, the equivalent of saying, let's go to the store or let's eat lunch. It doesn't really come out like what we would think of as a command, but these are considered to be the we commands. So in English, when we say, let's study a lot, in Spanish we would need to use the nosotros or nosotros form of the verb estudiar. Okay, and in Spanish, the nosotros and nosotros forms of commands for verbs are exactly the same as the subjunctive nosotros and nosotras forms of the verbs. So just use the subjunctive form. So for estudiar, the subjunctive form is hemos. So we would say estudiemos mucho. That would be the equivalent of let's study a lot. Now another way to say that in Spanish that means let's study a lot is vamos a estudiar. That's another way of saying let's do something. Let's study a lot. Vamos a estudiar. But the only thing to keep in mind with using vamos is that it also means we are going to study. Okay? We are going to study a lot. So estudiemos mucho is more clear because that's really saying let's study a lot. Whereas vamos a estudiar could mean let's study a lot or we are going to study a lot. And you would just have to use the context of the conversation or the sentence to tell whether or not it means let's do it or we're going to do it. Now, some irregular uses of the nosotros command involve the verb ir, to go. If we wanted to say let's go, we would say vamos. But if we wanted to say let's not go, we would say no vayamos. And notice the accent mark on the first A. No vayamos. Now in the verb irse, to leave, in order to say let's leave, we would say vámonos. Vámonos, and it has an accent mark. Let's not leave would be no nos vayamos. No nos vayamos. So these are kind of irregular in their subjunctive nosotros forms. Now, in order to use direct object and indirect object pronouns with these forms, we just follow the same rule with regular commands. We either tack them onto the end of affirmative commands or place them between the no and the verb for negative commands. So here's some examples. Démoselo a ella. Let's give it to her. Let's give it to her. So we have the verb dar, the subjunctive nosotros form of dar, demos. And then we have the indirect object pronoun se and lo. And because this is affirmative, we've tacked those on the end, added an accent mark over the de, and that translates to let's give it to her. Now if we wanted to say let's not give it to her, then we would have to place those pronouns between the no and the verb. No se lo demos a ella. No se lo demos a ella. Let's not give it to her. Here's another example. Mandémoslo. Let's send it. Now this only has a direct object. So we have the nosotros form of the verb mandar, mandemos. And then the direct object pronoun lo. Mandémoslo. The negative would be let's not send it. No lo mandemos. There's our object pronoun. And there's our verb.